Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show. Paul, welcome to the Leadership Podcast. Happy to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about leadership in professional services. Talk to us about the story, Paul. What led you into leadership development and consulting?
You know, for years, I was an economist, and I studied economics. I was a corporate economist, took a job in DC as a consultant, did strategic planning, all sorts of business planning, strategic planning, spreadsheets. And a client called us once and said, "We're changing our culture. Can you help me find somebody?" And I called into my network and I found a group out of Utah called Vital Smarts. And there was an author there, co-author of the book Crucial Conversations, who was available. His name's Ron McMillan. And we won the bid. And I watched Ron work with this CEO, 2 VPs, and 13 managers. And after about the second session, I thought, I want to be like him. Within months, I'd quit my firm. Mid-career, I quit it. And I talked to Ron about what I should do. And I studied psychology and ultimately got my Ph.D. in business psychology. So that's what got me into leadership, is to watch somebody do it.
What was it about him or about the session he gave or the workshop that he gave that made you think, okay, I'm going to drop everything I've built for the last, decade and go into this? Like what was the aha moment?
The aha moment was when Ron was with this group. He was with this group 100%. He wasn't doing anything else. He focused on them. He focused on their responses. He didn't accept this. An example of this was we wanted to find out who the influencers were in the organization, and so we did a survey and came back. One of them was the CEO called him a major malcontent. Take him off the list, and Ron goes, "He's an influencer. Deal with it." And we kept it on the list and spent the next 18 months winning him over. But it was that willingness to just be honest with the client and say, "No, I don't see it this way. And let me tell you why." And that kind of brutal honesty built so much trust that they relaxed. The whole leadership team relaxed when they thought, okay, this guy isn't just going to let us say what we're going to, this guy's going to help us. And he's going to tell us when we're not on the right path. And by the second time I saw him do that, I thought, oh my goodness, I want, there's that ad that says, I want to be like Mike, like Michael Jordan. I wanted to be like Ron, just like Ron. And he had them putty in his hands. It was magnificent. To this day, I still can sense that entire first two meetings, and that was in 2002.
And I'm going to tell you one better, Paul. I can feel that first meeting as well, by the way you describe it. So clearly, it was a powerful moment. So leading up to today, what is the problem that you help people solve now? What is it that you help them achieve?
I think the biggest pain point that our clients are facing is doing more with less. And how do we communicate in ways that not only build trust, but build confidence that the vision that they're working towards is a valuable vision and that they matter. And that is all around communications, listening, giving feedback, not managing, but living through the conflict. And so instead of deciding I'll discuss it later or they'll get it, they hold the conversations, and they're tough. Sometimes they're really tough conversations. And I think that is where we see leadership stuck more than anything else is in that sort of gap between performance and speaking up and talking about it.
Who do you solve it for? Obviously leaders, right? But like, do you have a specific niche, industry, company size that you're specifically looking at? All right. How do you think about this?
For a long time it was hospitals, because in
Interesting.
hospitals, the nurses and doctors, there can be tension between nurse and just a lot of tension and high stakes. Okay, so both those things really can create some stress, and so it started in hospitals, and then it sort of migrated to just corporate, and then we moved into the federal sector because I'm in the DC area. But I think right now the sort of the niche would be organizations that aren't big enough to have their own learning and development group. So maybe 1,000 employees, small companies, teams that are just trying to get unstuck. That's probably, I mean, that's a big niche, I'm sure. I realize I just told you it's about everybody, but we've done some stuff with big corporations, Fortune 500. That's really not my niche. And quite frankly, my niche is more the middle management too. I leave the C-suite to the Ron McMillans of the world. And I'm much more interested in the manager who's being pulled on both directions from the bosses and the employees.
So it's interesting because when we look at the professional service firms that services the middle management of a company, from 1,000 employees all the way up to Fortune 500, oftentimes the decision maker is not necessarily the person that you end up working with, nor is the one that benefits from all this, right? So you have the middle management, the ones benefiting from the middle management being better leaders are the executive team, but the ones making the decision are the head of L&D, head of HR, CHRO, whatever. How do you think about this, Paul? How do you, and we're going to get into marketing, obviously, but you help the middle management, but you need to talk to a head of L&D, and ultimately you need to convince the executive that this is the right move. How do you think about the different decision makers? Who are they? And how do you get through the door with them?
Oh, as you were talking, the first thing, the word that came to mind is gatekeeper. Who is the gatekeeper?
The G word.
And really, oftentimes it is the HR. So we did a lot of stuff with the organization SHRM. So we would, the Society for Human Resource Management, and we do trade shows, local trade shows, but to try to get the HR people who are hearing about the pain to find us, and then bring it to the leaders. And so oftentimes we rely on the gatekeepers, and that's been a strength, and that's been a horrible weakness, because when the gatekeeper goes, we lose our funnel in to organizations, and we'll obviously talk about marketing, but the thing is that the person is in the pain is the operations manager. The HR manager is getting an earful from people, but the operations manager is sitting there thinking, I'm not getting my quotas. I'm not getting my output. I got a team that doesn't like to talk to each other. And so it's kind of this, the person who's got the pain isn't the person who sees me, because they're not going to the conferences that the L&D people are going to or the HR people are going to.
So you're making my job way easier, because this is the perfect softball, Paul. Then how do you, in your marketing mix, in your branding, right, in your lead generation aspect, how do you make sure that you talk about the pain for the middle management, You showcase the benefits for the executive leader team, and you're also putting yourself in front of the head of L&D, head of HR, to say like, hey, I might be able to help your middle management team here. What has worked for you marketing-wise to get into the right conversations?
So I would say for a long time, it was word of mouth, um, referrals, local. So we stayed pretty local. I ended up teaching a class called Crucial Conversations for years, and that became a segue into helping people understand I can help you communicate. I can help you make it safe for your leaders to talk about their pain. And kind of from there on, it was how do I build a business case for change? So literally, we would create the material that would say, we help this organization. So the organization I saw Ron at, 18 months after that, that we called it an intervention. 18 months after that intervention, the CEO was looking at the quarterly survey results. How are we doing compared to last quarter? Flat. It was just flat. And so he summons us all into the boardroom. And I thought, okay, I'm getting fired. And so one of my colleagues on this project opened up the original 28 problems that we identified 18 months earlier. And when he read that list, the CEO said, that is not the organization I work for today. That becomes a powerful message to the next organization to be able to say, we've seen transformation where leaders have stepped up. We've seen this. And so that has helped us. Specifically, we would do trade shows. That was primarily where we go. Those are like dead. I can't afford the big ones. And so we've done a lot more. Like I'm writing a series of books on leadership. So we're going to use the book entree via LinkedIn to try to target specifically those people on LinkedIn that would be interested in something like that. That's probably been our biggest. The model changed. Quite frankly, our model changed. And if I may, we migrated over from 2005 to 2012. We started migrating because I'm in DC to the federal sector. So for the last 11, 12, 15 years, I've been focusing on federal government agencies. And then in 2020, Doge hit. And when Doge hit, we had people, they just left. They retired or they got fired. Whole department, we lost. My list of contacts is literally, as I'm speaking to you, is like under 20. And I'm pivoting as I speak. I'm trying to live what we're talking about today, to pivot into the private sector. And so we're doing things like LinkedIn. We're doing little articles, that we're going to try to publish, 500, 700 word articles on leadership issues, pain issues that we've experienced. So I don't know if that was a long answer to your question or did I dance around it a little bit, but
no, I think this was a great answer. The reason is there is no good or bad, first of all. I think you've put you've put your finger on a point that we don't tackle that often on the podcast, which is it's constantly evolving. And I mean, we're not going to go over AI and so on, but like things are changing really, really fast. And I think, I've witnessed the best professional services firms, as in the ones that last long, are the ones who are able to adapt, and the ones who understand that what was working marketing-wise 5 years ago might not be the same thing that works today. The fundamentals stay the same, right? You need trust, you need authority, you need visibility in front of the right people, and you need a way to trigger conversations. But the way you go about those four evolves, as in, we are in the day and age where anybody can claim anything, We're in a trust recession time. So how do you constantly rethink of new ways to build that trust, build that authority, showcase thought leadership, and then trigger a conversation? So it's great because we went from word of mouth, referral, working very locally, conferences, LinkedIn, articles, pivoting also into the private sector from the public one when, you don't have a choice here. If you want to survive, you need to pivot. So that's a very interesting answer. And now I'm the one who is taking it way longer than it should. Talk to me about how you transition from all this, Paul, into a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, a letter of engagement. What does sales motion look like when you have all those moving pieces that you need to think of?
That question is an interesting question, and I would answer it differently for who I'm talking to. Because if I'm talking to an L&D person, they may be looking just for, I have a client who needed a introductory leadership program for the emerging leaders. Not the existing, not the middle managers, but those who are the frontline supervisors, maybe that are going to be full managers or managers of managers. That conversation with them is about programs, about certifications, about training, support. You go to the HR people and they're talking pain points as in operational. They're hearing from somebody in operations that are saying, I can't stand McMurray. He's driving me nuts. I don't know what to do about it. And I need some help. And so they're out looking for potentially a solution of some kind. And so those kinds of conversations really are need-based, much more around, I hate to use the term pain point. What's your pain point? But really it comes down to what do you need? And is that something like, we don't do IT. I don't do IT. I don't do federal HR. I don't do federal retirement. There are things I kind of said, here's my lane. And outside my lane, I might be able to help you find something. And that actually helped me because they feel credibility that I'm saying, no, I don't do this. I do this. And those conversations, they're hard now because seriously, trying to find the people who are, I had an L&D person say, I get 23 calls a week from people trying to sell me something. Why are you different? And so that becomes how do I set that apart? And from a consulting perspective, one of the things that I've chosen now is, we've seen Crucial Conversations, the book, lead to Crucial Conversations training. That book led to another book, We're looking at writing side of the authorship side. And my series is called the Leadership Fluency series. We're looking at that as our entree in so that it builds some credibility before the trust comes, because they got to trust that before they trust you as a consultant, they need to have confidence in your credibility that you can actually do what you've done. And so referrals, those types of things, really, the case studies that we can show, we can literally print and say, here's a case study at a hospital. Here's a case study at a food manufacturing plant. That those get us huge credibility in presenting who we are. But I will say, I still got to get behind that gatekeeper. I'm bald because I pulled my hair out. Really,
such a challenge.
I say that, when the gatekeeper goes or the gatekeeper says no, you're kind of just, okay, there's a wall.
Hanging up to dry.
Yeah.
So I feel you, Paul. One thing that I want to piggyback on here, which is gold. That's too many professional services firms. They all know that this is important, but they don't do it. And it is case studies. And so having embedded into your delivery process a way to collect testimonials and metrics so that you can build the case study afterwards is so valuable. Back to the trust recession times, right? We are in a day and age where anybody can claim anything. And one of our go-to is like, we don't make any promises. We only show proof because everybody is making promises. And it's just becoming a game of like, who can top it up? And like, oh, we're going to promise this and we're going to promise this. No, here are the results that we had for our clients. So for professional services firms listening to us right now, literally some making millions, if not 8 figures, collect testimonials and case studies that you're embedding into your delivery process and then into your marketing funnel so that people can consume them on their own or slightly pushed when very relevant to them. I like the paper version that you mentioned, Paul. We do emails because we feel this works well as well. But like having those case studies is super, super important. How do you think about? Go ahead.
I was going to say, the challenge that you're talking about here is the other piece of that is, am I willing to ask somebody for a review? Am I willing to? Because I am a chicken sometimes. Even though I hit a home run on the project, and the class loved it, whether it's a class or a consulting gig or whatever it might have been. I am a chicken. I am a wimp when it says, can I get somebody to write me a review? We've started putting those in our evaluations and having a question at the end of the evaluation that says, could you give me a comment on how this is? I'd like to use it for marketing. It's the collecting of those, and then where do you put those? On your website, where do you put those? That I think that's a bigger issue for service people. And I know for me, I have a salesperson, and it's so much easier for him to call up and say, hey, how'd Paul do? Can I get a review? Than it is for me to do it at the end. But I've seen business partners at the very end say, hey, if you like this, we want to hear from you because we want to use this as a testimonial. And that, I think, from a services perspective, I don't think we look at the structure of how do we get them? Where do we store them? Where do we put them? Is it anonymous? Can I use the person? Can I use the logo from the company? What? That's a big issue that I think many of us are wimps on.
So I need to be careful about how I say the next thing, because I'm making all the efforts possible not to push certain things that we do on the podcast. But so for this, Paul, we've seen a lot of people getting success by removing all the friction there is in asking for the review. And that is, hey, come and have a conversation on my podcast. And you're going to walk us through your experience with us. You don't have to type it out. You don't have to think about it. I'm going to ask you questions, and you should just explain how your experience has been with us. Oh, and by the way, we're going to use the transcript to transform it into a written review that we can showcase on our website. Is that okay for you? And you do that with the deliverables at the end. We've seen people getting crazy good results from this. People never writing the review to saying, oh yeah, I would like to be interviewed on a podcast. And actually the cherry on the cake is those existing clients, if you create assets and pieces of content for them from that episode, they will advertise it on their platforms. So now you're getting a testimonial from one of your clients published by one of your clients on their platforms.
Yeah.
Murders. Yeah. Closing the parenthesis. Another question I wanted to ask you was around the gatekeeper. So, I mean, this is a hair transplant, just to be clear. So that's my problem as well. I pulled my hair and I had to replace them. How do you think about solving that challenge, the gatekeeper challenge? Because that's the number one, right? If you pass the gatekeeper, you're good. How are you thinking about solving the challenge?
I've had long conversations with my with the people that sell for me, because oftentimes we just go and we want to do the shotgun approach. And the shotgun approach says, I got 25 services I can offer you. Which one do you want? Pick. And yeah, you're shaking your head too. And the challenge there is the decision-making process, you got to make it easy for them to decide. And I'll come back to, I think for the gatekeeper, the goal is the gatekeeper's trying to protect the people behind them from not so great consultants. And so they're going to do their best to say no first. My experience has been, it is always a no first. And if they say, well, let me think about it, that's still a no, And so
100%.
for us, one of the things that we've started doing is really narrowing down what it is we want to offer. We have a catalog. I have a catalog of like 100 and some odd classes I could teach, or I've got a group of trainers that we could teach. And to go into a client and say, here's what I got. What do you like? That only works with a few L&D people who are saying, yeah, I got to pick. I got to find something. Let me see a list. Okay. They like that. Everybody else, I might as well have just, the choice is too much. And so for us, it really comes in this, what is my pitch? What is my business case for change, or my, if you want to call it the high value offer? What is it that I'm proposing to them that's not generic? I mean, I can go in and say, yeah, we do a coaching program and we can lead it to training. And they go, yeah, you and everybody else says the same thing. And so I really think the issue with the gatekeeper is, one, you got to get to know them and their pain. If they don't trust you, that you have their best interests in mind, if they think that all you're doing is what's in it for McMurray, it's a no. But when you start talking about, hey, I can really keep these guys off your back if you'll let me talk, can we set up a call? And that's kind of been the thing for us, is to try to find the pain point that they're trying to solve for somebody else, and helping them realize that we can make that happen. And that also happens with case studies. Say, we've experienced food processing people in plants that plant safety is a big issue, and they overcame it. We worked with them. Like, oh, cool. Tell me more. Those are the best words. Tell me more.
You want to hear that.
Absolutely.
And you want to say that as well. Love that. And yeah, I literally don't have anything to add to that. That was absolutely perfectly said. Paul, I feel we've already tackled kind of the challenge question. So let's jump straight to the opportunity. What's a big opportunity that you see in your space and your business that you're looking forward to work on in the next 3 to 6 months?
Oh, I think our opportunity is really coming down to, I love AI. I absolutely love AI. And I think AI used right is great, but it doesn't change the human connection. It doesn't change I could completely write a book in AI, but I still need the human element to make it link, to build the links. And so for us, I think the opportunities are really to how to build the links so that people feel connected in a world that would be easy to disconnect from with, oh, I'll just have AI do this, or, oh, I'll just do this. And if I can add one thing that was very interesting just recently, using AI and the human element, is one of my clients they work with a product called SDI, which is a personality profile. And she had to write an email to a senior leader, like 2 above her. And I just made the statement. I said, why don't you take your email and put it into AI and tell AI that they have this personality profile. And she did it. And she sent me both emails on the one she was going to write and the one AI wrote. And she could not believe how using that tool helped her understand how the person wanted to receive the email, just hit it right on, and now has actually a better connection with the person because the email landed. And so it's using AI and using that human connection that I think is where we've got to go, because it's going to be very easy over the next. And if I might add one more thing, on the problems, one of the things that we realized from a longevity perspective is if I have for a long time, my bosses always talked to the senior leaders, and I always worked with just below them. When that senior leader left, my boss no longer had the relationship. I did. And I think that from a consulting perspective, we need to think about continuity in succession planning. Do I know the next level down? I can tell you times when they brought in a new manager and fired us. Manager brought in his own team because we failed to find that connection to the next level down. And I think that's the other piece of this is if I want to be long-term, I've got to see on how I build the connections to the organization, not just to a senior leader or a specific leader, because then you're one and done. They go. So sorry to digress a little bit on that one, but I think that's a key point.
This is chef's kiss. This is an absolute masterclass, also on authenticity and truth. So thank you so much for this, Paul. If people want to find out more about you and see what you do, where should they go?
So we have a website, findinsight.com. You'll find you can reach us there. Coming soon will be this 4-book series. You'll see that we'll have that too. Those are the immediate places that you could reach us. And I'm on LinkedIn, Paul McMurray. You can always catch me there.
We will put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure is that you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you. Paul, thank you so much for coming on the Principal Podcast.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you learned valuable strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.